All right, so far in assignment 8, we have put a lot of effort into getting a type solution, a font solution, to go with our spot illustration and putting it in black and white in a way that we're happy with within Illustrator. And I have used existing fonts and put them in. Now, when I want to bring it into Photoshop to do some coloring, I can add other things. Like I can have separate layers that I use in Photoshop, and maybe even some that I rasterize in Photoshop, like these rainbow bands. So my ambition was, I took these individual fonts, and I found this Barbarian font. I didn't really like the Barbarian font, but I liked the kind of rainbow going through it. But if a font is based on strokes, it doesn't allow you to easily create outlines from it. You have to create outlines from the fill version, and this doesn't have a fill version. So instead, I just used the pen tool in Illustrator to create the arcs for myself, and then to make them a little less clunky looking than just bars, I made them go from thin to thick in the arc, and I think that will look nice. The problem is, because that's a stroke, and a lot of my issues with Illustrator are always because of the uses of strokes, I can't then cut away from them without ruining the stroke. So to show you what I mean, and this is why I'll do it in Photoshop instead, if I select the rainbow arcs that I made and then I selectively erase them out so that they only show behind the letters, for instance, it all looks good to begin with, but then they become chunks because the stroke application is going to apply to each individual section. So instead, you use the advantages of Illustrator to break it up into parts. So what I'm going to do is turn off everything except for one element that I want to show. So for instance, the Putin, right there. So I want that to show. So now I'm going to say File, Save As, my Putin type solution to the desktop as an EPS. Keep all the defaults. The EPS is a file type that can move, a vector file type that can move between programs. And SVG is another type. But EPS, if I open it up in Illustrator, it will still have all the layers for me. And that's what I like about EPS file formats. Now I do the other parts. The on the solution. It never hurts to have these all separate. So I say File, Save As. Just depends how complicated your components are. So now I have one EPS that's for the Putin, one EPS that's for the on the, and all I'm doing is turning the eyeballs on and off on them. One EPS that's for the Ritz. And this will give you the most flexibility in Illustrator as well. And one EPS that is for the rainbow lines, in case I want to use those. Why not draw those in Photoshop or paint them behind? Well, as a vector, they're going to be so much sharper as a smart object. Okay, now I will close this, and all of those are already in my original EPS file, which is just my assignment 8 type solutions file. So now I am done with Illustrator for this project. And now everything else is going to be done in Photoshop. So, within Photoshop, instead of opening up an EPS file, which will force you to rasterize it, I create a new file. And I'm going to make this big enough for a poster. So this will be Carl Assignment 8 poster. And I want it to be pretty much as large as we can print. So 13 inches, well, let's do 12 by 18 inches, because that's the largest matte opening we can easily get. 12 by 18 inches by 350 pixels per inch. The reason I'm not making it huge, like 24 by 36 inches, something like that, is just because we don't have the capability of printing that, and that will just waste memory. All right. Now I will bring these different EPS elements onto it by dragging and dropping. And I'll place them within that poster shape. I can make them bigger. By holding down Shift and Option, I can grow them from the center. But I like to place things mostly visually. And of course, they're going to be individual components. So I can size them individually. And modify them without any loss of resolution, because they're all smart objects. So if you're having difficulty getting everything to line up the way you wanted to in Illustrator, by separating out your parts here in Photoshop, then you can use your skill in Photoshop and move them together, organize them all together. And if you like, you can always turn on your grid and space them that way. So if I want this perfectly centered, it's about 3 in 1 square, 3 in 1 square. 1 in 1 square, 1 end. Let's nudge that a little bit more. There we go. Also, Photoshop does this nice thing. If you make a new guide, it will hug to the middle. So I like to have a center guideline there usually. And you can just toggle that off, on and off with Command semicolon. All right, now I want to bring in my spot illustration, which is from Assignment 7. My highest resolution, colored, finished spot illustration. I'm going to open it first in Photoshop. This might have all those different color treatments. So this has the halftone dots blended into it. Very nice. Doesn't have a background. And if I want to keep all that capacity, I can just select all 3 of these layers and move all 3 of those layers together onto my poster. And I can click this chain link so that they always move together until I unlink them. And Putin's there is a little bit bigger than I thought he was. So I'm going to do my best to kind of center the overall graphic. And now that allows me to place the type again. Now I want Putin on top of his name like that. And now as I move it, and if you want exact movements, you can use your arrow keys. Maybe something like that. Because I hit the chain link, every time I move one aspect of him, all of them will move. Now it just becomes kind of a layout exercise. And now for the other types. You can also link together different font treatments so that they move together. And then you can also scale them. Even though they're smart objects, you can still scale and to some extent warp them as you see fit. And because they're vectors, they will perfectly clean up and match the resolution. All right. So I'm going to save that. That is my Carl Assignment 8 poster design. I'm going to save it to the desktop. And right now it just has a white background. And I don't have any coloring in particular on the lettering. And before I get too much into coloring the lettering, I might want to think of how the background should work. And I might go back to my inspirations for that. So like the Ritz inspiration, or this. I like this sunburst. Different ideas. And of course, my rainbow idea from my initial color sketch. These are all things I'll keep as possibilities. And if I want to steal colors directly from them, I need to open them with Photoshop instead of just in preview. Get some of those again. Okay. So they're all open on different tabs in Photoshop, but I want to go to my original. And what I might do is steal a color, like steal this red. Red seems appropriate for Russia. I'm going to steal that color with the dropper tool. And now I'll make a new background layer. And I'll fill it with that red. Lots of ways you can do that. And this way I can see all of those different layer effects I have around Putin. And now I can go up to the Putin type solution right here. And just like we learned from digital coloring, I can use that if I have contiguous on to select the inside of each letter. It's like a fill, but I'm going to do it on a new layer underneath. And I can steal the color from the Ritz logo. And simply fill it in. Now what if I want the black, which looks a little harsh next to my spot illustration, which is slightly colored outlines. If I want that to steal from the Ritz logo, I might take this blue drop shadow it has and steal that.